Welcome back to B&B Studios, where Berner and Barthy will talk all things happening in the Central Coast Rugby competition. Good chat, good footy, good fun. Take it away, boys.
Welcome back, everybody, to the B&B Unplugging Central Coast Rugby podcast. Back for another week of the potty. Apologies for last week. Didn't quite get around to getting the potty out. Obviously, big preparations for Todd Will's 70th birthday and the public holiday weekend. But this weekend, we're going to wrap up round 8. We're going to wrap up the country championships, and we're also going to preview round 9. Barthy, how you going?
I'm going outstandingly well, mate. I'm going great guns, having a great time. Let's get into it, shall we?
Let's get straight into it. Apologies, listeners. We've had 4 cracks again this intro done. We've had audio issues every time, so hopefully we're just going to push through. We're going to be fine now. All right. Let's get into the country champs results, thanks to Gus and the team at Erina Podiatry. So 3 teams went away. The first team, the Colts. Then we had the women's 15s, and then we had, obviously, our men's side as well. So the Colts actually took it out. They had 4 games against 3 teams. The first team they played was Hunter. They won 15-0. Second team, Central West, they won 8-0. Third team, Hunter, they won 19-5. And the last game they played against Central West, it was a 5-all draw. So the whole weekend undefeated. So an amazing feat by Nick Meyer, Brett Cunningham, and the boys. Absolutely outstanding. So what'd you make of that, mate?
Mate, I think it's great effort by Nick and the coaching staff there and the young fellas. It's 2 years in a row. They've been very competitive. Just going down in the final last year and winning it this year. Outstanding. It's an outstanding achievement considering we haven't had a Colts competition for the last couple of years. And a real sad indictment of the state of the game when across the state of New South Wales and the country regions, we can only get 3 regions that field an under-19s team. So very sad, but big congratulations to all those young fellas flying the flag for the Central Coast and being successful. So big ups for Cunnos, Nick Meyer, and all the under-19s gentlemen. And
the women's, so unfortunately didn't finish as high as they probably would have liked. First game lost against Central West, 17 points to 12. A tight game. They would have loved to win that one because that would have given them a shot at the big one. But the next 2 games they went through and won both of them. So won 15-7 against Mid-North Coast, and the last game they won 8-5 against Central North. Outstanding effort by the girls. They played so good. It was awesome to watch them. Just all the, our best players in Central Coast, and just seeing them play in the 15s format, because we don't see that. We obviously see them play 10s. Just to see how they operate in 15s was great. It was a really good watch. So the girls definitely did the Coast proud. They played absolutely awesome. Every game was great.
It was the most successful season to date from memory, or certainly first in a long time. They're finishing 3rd, so well done to the Central Coast women.
And on to the men's. First game they played in Illawarra. They got up 33 points to 12. Second game they played against Central North and got up 18-0. And then the grand final, they're up against Central West. And unfortunately, they lost Ethan McInnes, and that's a pretty big loss. And the grand final, I was expecting it to be tight, and I was hoping the boys could get home. And it just was one of those games where everything unfolded the wrong way. They ended up going down 52 points to 5. It was a heavy loss. But yellow cards, and just was one of those games where every bounce went wrong. Like every single time, usually when we're watching the games before, like everything went right. Like everything was just clicking, and nothing would click the whole game. And you're watching it going, oh, they can come back here, they can do that. And just nothing clicked. They just and everything clicked for Central West, and it was an emphatic victory in the end. It was well deserved by Central West, but obviously a disappointing end for the boys, because the potential and the ceiling of what they can achieve is obviously better than that with what they did last time. So they'll be unhappy with that. But I think losing your captain is a pretty big blow as well. So
yeah, Central West are traditionally a strong region as well. They're always there or thereabouts in the competition. So yes, unfortunately, rugby is like that. Some days burner, some days you're hot, some days you're not, and ball just not bouncing the right way.
Exactly. A pretty big one, but congratulations to Central Coast as well. It just looks like an awesome weekend away, and I know that it always is, but it feels like they go the extra effort, the Coast are this year, just in terms of the gear, in terms of what it looks like, and speaking to a couple of the players of how awesome those couple of days are just for the whole Central Coast competition and for the players that get to play in it. So, awesome weekend. So congratulations to Central Coast Rugby.
The region's actually taking the competition seriously, which is fantastic. This sounds a bit harsh, but we've spoken about it before on the podcast. Unfortunately, there's been it's been a difficult slog to get the best players on the Central Coast to play because of a variety of different reasons. So it's good to see that the administration and Central Coast are taking the representative side, I guess, a little bit more seriously and putting a little bit more effort into it. And Stewie Jenkins has been a big driver behind that from the board on the Central Coast, and obviously Craig McWilliam, the coach, and all his staff and the players are getting behind. They're putting some good programs in, and we're seeing the reward from it. So that's what happens when you actually get off your ass and do something about raising the profile or the importance of representative rugby on the Central Coast. So well done to everyone involved.
Yeah, because even when I was playing, we've spoken about this in the potty before a couple of years ago, but in my sort of early years, there was no incentive to play reps. There was no, like, I had to go play with people from other clubs. And it's obviously like now. But
you're lucky if you got a T-shirt.
Yeah, but there was nothing. There's no reason. I didn't know about it. I didn't know kind of where to go. And I could have found out if you wanted to. But you're trying to aspire players and people that are already involved in their clubs, and they probably don't. If you want to play at a higher level, sometimes you're going down to Sydney to play that. So a lot of people are playing socially. So I think it's actually harder. Like, it's better now that they're actually reaching out, and we're seeing this stuff on social media, and you got people who are in around the club saying, hey, come play reps, and you got that strong squad. I think they've built something really good there, especially, Colts, to have the strongest Colts in the whole region, whole New South Wales is really, really powerful.
The whole seniors rep program is outstanding. It's really good, and you're really well done to everyone involved. It's good to see, really good to see.
All right, and now we are going to we're going to review week 8.
Yeah.
Something we should have done last week, mate. Apologies.
Couldn't do.
Gus. Thanks to Gus and the team there at Podiatry. Gus, give us a thumbs up, mate. Cheers, Gus.
Go on you, Gussie.
God, he's good. All right, let's start off with the women's round 8. So first game, Razorbacks. Let's get Gus back.
Yeah, big competitive match here against the Avoca Beach women. 15 points to 26. What a competitive match. 4 tries to 3. And Jada Staben, we've spoken about it before. 3 from 4 with the boot. It gives them that little bit of breathing space, the importance of kicking the odd goals. But big ups for the Razorback women. How good. And what a competitive outfit they've shown themselves to be. And you know what? With a scoreline like that, they're proving themselves. They're every chance of being competitive around semi-finals time if they keep that sort of football up and that trajectory going. Really well done. What a match.
Yeah. Even so, one try the difference. I think that for me is obviously so big. The conversions, well, it's previously something that have actually let Avoca down, but in this time it's probably saved them a bit. Because even when it gets close and gets those dying moments, then the game can really turn a lot if the score is a little bit closer. So, but you imagine,
as you've played yourself, Berner, the pressure that comes when the games are tighter. And if you've got someone who can kick goals and just give you a little bit of extra breathing space, I was lucky enough to play with one of the Central Coast greats in Brent Mungovern, and Bruiser Mungo used to just, he was outstanding with the boots, but it allowed us just to continue on with pressure. It allowed us just to continue on with scoreboard pressure. And when you've got, Jada Staben, who's now been quite successful with the boot, instead of it being 15 all or 15-20, it takes away that Razorbacks, convert a try and we're in. We can take the lead here. And then they start going, oh shit, we've got to score 2 tries and got to kick the 2 conversions. The mind game start, the scoreboard pressure happens. So good win by the Avoca Beach Sharks, but impressive performance by the Razorbacks.
Second game, the Trojans beat the Nalas 59 points to 0. So an emphatic victory here. Jess Brooks hat-trick, Maddie Robinson, Duple, and a couple other try scorers. Ans Jones kicking 2 for Ans Jones kicking 5 as well.
Yeah,
mate,
strong performance.
By the Trojans.
Yeah, a real sort of a statement game. Hornsby women were just starting to find their feet with some solid performances, but Terrigal Trojan women proving they're the best competition team at the moment. That's why they're on top of the table. And, putting the cleaners through the Hornsby women. Could be the exquisite exterior cleanup of the week, that result.
It could be, actually. That was a bit surprising. I didn't expect the result to be that big. I thought it'd be a little bit closer. And also to hold Hornsby to 0 is obviously a big achievement there as well.
Let's move on to the biggest result, but also the best result. Strange as it may sound, but the Lakes women beating Woowee 80-0. But it's not the 80-0 that is the most impressive part of this performance. It's the Woowee women stepping up. It's the Woowee women showing a hell of a lot of pride in their jersey. And it's the Woowee women showing up to compete for a day of rugby, even though they don't have the full contingent of players available. And I know, Berner, which I'll throw to you very shortly, that we have had an absolute chorus of praise by the Lakes women and those in and around the match about how wonderful those Woowee women were, and how proud they were of them and how they conducted themselves and had a crack on Saturday.
Yeah, there's a fair few that have come through. I'll read out. I'll read out Maddie Campbell. So she sent this one in. Says, "Hey boys, I know you've probably gotten a message from our pages already. I just want to say the Woowee girls, the amount of heart they have for this game is insane. The ladies that are still learning and still trying to turn up to matches, and sometimes they have no bench, and sometimes it's 7 players, which is what they had on the weekend. They still put every ounce of effort into what they do. They're honestly some of the most beautiful souls you'll ever meet, and don't let the scoreline play games with you, because my body is aching from how hard they hit too." So even with the scoreline, obviously, I think they played 8-on-7 is what they played in the end. So, Lakes with that advantage. But that was what was good, that Woowee still made the trip up there. There wasn't the forfeit, so Lakes ladies get a game. It was a good win for the Lakes as well. 80 points is obviously big, but what Woowee learned from that game as well, you got a lot of girls who are new to rugby, and the camaraderie around that makes those 7 girls go home and not that 80 points a thrashing is what 80 points is, 80-0. They don't go home and feel really bad about that. You go home and you're still pumped about the day of rugby, and you want to tell the next person, and maybe next week there's 8 and there's 9 and there's 10 that shows up. And that's what we got to build. That's exactly what we have to do around Central Coast Rugby at the moment, especially in the women's competition. We don't have tiers. We don't have a couple of grades in which you can, people can drop down or people can go up. We're still building that competition. So while there are some teams that are established, we still have a couple of others, and there probably can be teams that enter next year from places like Gosford. There's going to be some heavy losses, but the teams are getting involved. I've mentioned Gosford. Is that why you got your hand up? There's the teams that are getting involved with them and supporting them, and that's what's so good. And the messages, again, we got so many that have come in around the Woowee girls and how they've acted and how they've turned up and competing on every play, and just not having the skill set there yet. And the numerical advantage as well. They're obviously going to lose on the scoreboard, but they're turning up and they're learning about the game, and that's kind of how things probably were 3 years ago before the competition became super competitive, which is, the growth that you want. So hats off to both parties there. Obviously the Lakes for showing the hospitality that they did and writing in and letting us know that. That's Maddie Campbell, single her out, but there's also a couple of others on there as well. And, a massive shout out to Aisha El-Kurdi and what she's doing with the Woowee girls, recruiting, getting down to training, doing the basics with the skills, and then getting in touch with clubs before Saturday to sort of say, look, here's the situation that we're in. What can we arrange? And, I'm moving forward from there.
Yeah, mate, I was going to actually we'll give a shout out to Aisha El-Kurdi. Can you message us here at the podcast and just the names of the women who showed up and poured their guts and hearts and soul out on Slade Park for their game against the Lakes? Because I think, Berner, we're going to unveil it now. The new beer coolers for the podcast beer coolers, they're ready to go. I'm going to give the first 7 or 8 to those Woowee women who have made the effort, the commitment to not let any of the other clubs on the Central Coast down. So the first 7 or 8 beer coolers, hot off the press, literally got the confirmation today. Aisha, if you get a hold of us here at the podcast, we'll ensure that cooler number 1 through to 7 or 8 or however many showed up on Saturday, we'll make sure that you ladies get those hot off the press before anyone else does. So well done, Woowee. Well done, Aisha.
They're that hot off the press that I don't even know what they look like. I haven't even seen him yet. We didn't approve the design yet.
Yeah.
So that's the wrap up of the men's, mate. Sorry, that's the wrap up of the women's. Let's get to the men's. Let's do that. Round 8. All right. So
Well, those of you watching on YouTube, I'll give you a quick. Where's my camera? Here we go. A quick squiz. That's what they look like. There we are, people. I don't know if that works very well, but that's what they look like.
yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
You're on the
Anyway.
orange ones this year, mate.
Yeah. Well, cat's
Right,
out of the bag now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I like to call it I like to call it a ginger, not a red.
Oh, yes. Surely we are. Yes, the ginger cooler. Oh, that's outstanding. The ginger cooler. I appreciate that, mate. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah, mate. Looking after you, brother. I'm looking after you. So I was going to keep it a secret, but now the cat's out of the bag. We're going to unveil at the Voca Terrigal match the ginger beer coolers. But anyway.
Oh, that's outstanding. That is outstanding. All right, on to Premier 1. So first game, we'll say the Lakes hosted Lake Macquarie and got their win 68 points to 12. Big victory here. I don't think we expected really. This is probably the scoreline that we expected. Obviously, there's some big victories or big wins that have been happening over Lake Macquarie. But Bartha, your statistic, this is actually an improvement again.
Mate, 100%. I said it here on the podcast. I've been saying it all along. And this is just further evidence of my statistical analysis being true. It is by far, head and shoulders, the best performance by the Lake Macquarie side so far this year. And well done.
If they keep improving at this rate, how long until they're in the top 4?
Next couple of weeks.
Next couple of weeks. All right. Thank you. Next game,
well,
Terrigal.
I will say Lakes were lucky to score 68 points.
We'll leave it at that. The next game, Terrigal beat Hornsby 48 points to 3. So
yeah, a little bit like
victory. Don't leak a try.
Now, a little bit like the women's game. Hornsby were just starting to get a little bit of momentum in the men's. They've been a very competitive and plucky outfit, as we've spoken about throughout this year. But, mate, they've come up against a side who are red hot, playing some outstanding rugby. And what have we got? 7 or 8 tries. Big performance. And Terrigal Trojans stamping their mark on the competition, and those teams hoping to get in the lower parts of the semi-final playoffs. Just good performance, strong performance, and a very much a Terrigal Trojan performance that we've come to expect from them this season.
All right, next 2 games. So you actually predicted draws in both of these games, and during the games, we were both looking at it going, there is every chance that these are both going to be a draw. First one, let's talk about Gosford-Warnervale. I tipped Gosford based on nothing, but I just thought Gosford was going to get the win at home. And they did, mate, 24 points to 19. So Gosford only scoring 2 tries, Warnervale scoring 3 tries, but Ben Shelley kicking a conversion and 4 penalties was the difference.
Yeah. Well, concerningly for the Wildcats, this is the same story of last week against the Sharks a couple of weeks ago from the Voca Beach Sharks. I think it was 4 penalties as well. Was the difference between the two sides. So Wildcats are going to need to sort out their discipline. Well, I don't know what that is, whether it's infringing at the tackle contest and at the breakdown, whatever that is. They need to fix it up because gee whiz, they're there or thereabouts. If they improve their discipline against both the team coming second and Gosford, the team slightly above them or slightly below them, then they would have won those 2 games. So watch out the rest of the competition if Warnervale can do that. But what an outstanding performance by the Gosford Red Devils. Also the calmness, the game management, and the nous, and a big shout out to Ben Shelley here, the nous to take the points when they're on offer, put that pressure on the Wildcats, keep them maybe over competing at the tackle contest, keep them infringing, taking the points when they're offer, keeping the scoreboard pressure ticking over. So yeah, really well done, Gosford Red Devils. Outstanding performance.
Yeah, Wildcats with 3 yellow cards as well. Gosford with 1 yellow card. So that, difference in the end. You got 20 minutes where you're playing a man down. So it's very hard to compete with that when you got 2 evenly poised sides, especially the Red Devils at home. And last game of the weekend, mate, Razorbacks, Avoca 20-all draw. You picked an 18-all draw. We put on the socials to see if you should get the tip, and it's come back 52% people say you don't get the tip because you said 18-all, not 20-all. So you've got to be better next time.
If I removed you from that poll, how would it sway?
Mate, it was me and all my burner accounts were on there saying no, he doesn't get it today. So technically, it might come down a little bit if you do take all those accounts off. But mate, what a performance! So 2 tries apiece, 2 conversions apiece, 2 penalties apiece. You can't split them.
Great performance by both sides, and I think it's a really good indication of the Razorbacks just flying under the radar, and I think we've been, Avoca have just been flying. It's been by head and shoulders their best season in a hell of a long time. I might even throw it out there and say it might be the best start to a season in 10 years. And obviously the Terrigal Trojans keep marching on. They're Razorbacks. They're just chipping away underneath, letting everyone else have the a bit of the limelight and everyone keeping their eye on them. But Razorbacks have only dropped 1 game, I think, themselves. So
yeah, they have. They've only played one bad half of footy. That's it.
Yeah,
they just got blasted by Terrigal in that first half, the game they played against them, and that was it. They played 1 bad half, and they're under the radar now.
Maybe not anymore. We'll expose the Razorbacks for the outstanding rugby side that they are. 20 points all, can't be separated. Avoca keep their unbeaten tag. They haven't lost a game yet. And the Razorbacks keeping their only losing the 1. So, good performance.
Nice and even. So the ladder after round 8. Apologies, everybody. Got the Rona over the weekend, and my throat is just going. It's tickling, so I'm trying to mute as much as I can as I cough, so you're not just coughing into the microphone the whole time. But apologies for that one. Hopefully, I can hold up a bit longer. Terra got the top at 35 points. Avoca second on 30 points. Razorbacks third on 26. Warrnambool fourth on 20. Gosford fifth on 19. Lakes sixth on 12. Hornsby seventh on 9 points. Woy eighth on 7 points. And Lake Macquarie last on 0. And over to the women's. Terrigal on top, 35 points. Avoca in second on 35 points. There is about a 60-point gap in the differential there. Lakes third on 24 points. Razorbacks fourth on 18 points. Hornsby fifth on 15 points. Warrnambool equal with them. About 100 difference in the differential there. And then Woy is last on 1 point. All right, you want to preview round 9?
Mate, let's do it. And how about I do some heavy lifting for you, pal? Give that throw to yours a rest.
Thanks, mate.
So let's have a look at round 9, and we'll open up with the women's. I'm going to open up with a game that I think is going to be extremely competitive. And if I was to tell you there was only 3 points difference between them on the ladder, you'd be quite surprised. But the mighty Razorback women are hosting the Wildcat women. The way the Razorbacks have been performing all year, you would think they'd be a few points higher up on the ladder than they are against one of our Wildcat women. So the Wildcat women are on 15 points. The Razorbacks are on 18. This is going to be an absolute cracking match. Really good game. I'm backing the Razorbacks, and I think there's an opportunity here for the Razorbacks to use it as a bit of a statement game, put a few points on, and really expand and bring that complete game of rugby. I think we've seen that the Wildcat women and how they approach the game might be a little bit one-dimensional, and we're looking for them to expand their game a little bit. So until that happens, I think they're right for the picking, and I think the Razorback women can do that on Saturday with a big victory, and I think they have the potential. Coming off the back of the performance against the Avoca Beach women, I think the Razorbacks could put a few points on Warrnambool if they get it all together. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Razorbacks this weekend. Watching Lorna Martin run around on the weekend as well. She's a phenomenal player. She plays so good at 9. I know 10's a different structure. In the 15s game, she's such a good 9. I think the Razorbacks at home, I think they're gonna build on how well they went 2 weeks ago. Obviously, having a couple that were playing in the rep tournament on the weekend as well. I think Razorbacks, but also this is probably the best round of rugby so far this year in terms of the games for both men's and the women's. This is the round that I think everyone's been waiting for, where every game's super close. There's been a bit of divide in the comp, and this is the killer round. So, yeah, Razorbacks for me, mate.
It's a really good opportunity too for the Razorback women to, I guess, put a little bit more pressure on the Lakes. The Lakes are, I think, 6 points above them, and they've also got the Hornsby women sort of breathing down their neck. And that leads us to the next game. That's Hornsby taking on Woy. Woy very proud of their efforts. Hopefully it's a little bit closer, less travel for them to head down to Hornsby. So with any luck, they can get a few more women to show up. And judging on the performance last week against the red-hot Terrigal Trojans side, Hornsby have been very hot and cold so far this season. We thought they were turning the corner there with a few sort of decent performances. The Hornsby women need to win, and they need to win to keep the pressure on the Razorbacks to secure that sort of fourth spot on the ladder. At the moment, they're just out of the top four, the Hornsby women. So they desperately need a big victory over Woy. I think they will be too strong for the Woy women. It's just going to be a case of whether Woy can take the full contingent down there and put on another good showing like they did against the Lakes. But the Nalas for me, pal.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. I reckon the Hornsby get the win at home. I think, Woy's still going to take a while to rebuild and sort of get that quality before they're winning games again. But I think it's just about for them just putting the numbers there and rebuilding the comp in those games. So I'm with you. And, mate, the big one.
Well, just before we touch on the big one, the Lakes have the bye, so that means they're going to sit still. And the Lakes are somewhere between 6 to 8 points ahead of the Nalas and the Razorback women. So
yeah, they're on 24.
It's if we see big victories by the Razorbacks and by the Nala women, gee whiz, that race for that top two spots is going to really heat up as we head into the second half of the competition. So quite an important round for those teams playing. So let's get on to the big one, mate. The Avoca Beach women, current premiership and title back-to-back title holders from memory. They are undefeated, coming up against the Terrigal Trojan women, who are top of the competition on for and against. They are also undefeated, and it is going to be an absolute cracking match. They are both on 35 points. They have both scored a maximum every time they've taken the field. It is just the differential that sees the Terrigal Trojans on top and the Avoca Beach in the second position. What a cracker. We've seen over the years that whilst the Terrigal Trojans side have been well and truly head and shoulders the best competition team when it comes to big matches and big matches against the Avoca Beach Sharks, the Avoca Beach women seem to have their measure. In the last couple of years, we've seen them knock off Terrigal in the competition rounds, and we've seen them obviously knock them off in the grand finals. So, gee whiz, is going to be a cracking match. Probably my favourite match of the year. How do you see it?
I say this every time. It's my favourite match in Central Coast Rugby. It has been for a couple of years. Watching these teams go up against each other is it's just the greatest. It is the greatest spectacle we have in our competition is these two teams, Avoca Terrigal in the women's. Flip a coin. It's just one of those. It's just that game. I don't even care. I say it all the time. I don't care who wins. It's just so good to watch. Just as a fan of the game, and we got such high-profile stars that you just watch them go up against each other. I tip Avoca every year in this, even when Terrigal's sort of been on top. But I sort of feel Terrigal this year. Again, I don't care. I just want to watch the game because it's just such a good spectacle. But I think I'm going to go Terrigal. I just feel, I don't know why. Same with Gosford last week. There's no reason for it. I'm just vibing Terrigal. What do you think?
I think the Terrigal Trojan women need to win. They need to win well. And they need to win to, I guess, as to quote Danielle Theron a couple of weeks ago, you don't win the competition in June or July, but it does help create a few head noises. And I think Terrigal need to. They really do, because, Avoca have shown they've got their measure. But here's one thing I'm going to point out to you that I think could be the difference. Avoca have a lot of younger footballers coming through, which is outstanding, and they're playing some really expansive and some great rugby, non-stop, high-pressure rugby. Terrigal have, by and large, got a lot of their settled side that they've had for quite some time, and they've got a sprinkling of young women coming through as well. but I think there's more experience and perhaps maybe a more settled side in the Terrigal Trojans. And if all the Trojan women are fit and play well and play to their best, I think they will be a better side and will put in a stronger performance than the Avoca Beach side. So I'm going to tip Terrigal Trojans. I think they need to win more than the Avoca Beach side do.
Yeah, I think there's more. I think exactly what you said. Avoca have had Terrigal's measure in the big games, and that's what resonates with everybody. Is that when it comes down to a crunch, Avoca wins. So I think this is a really important game for Terrigal. Again, flip a coin. It's just such a good spectacle. If you don't have a game to go to this weekend, you have to get down to Avoca and you have to watch this game. It is so good watching these women go up against each other. It's just a phenomenal match. Every time they play against each other. So Terrigal for me, mate, but I don't care.
It's going to be a great game. Going to be a great spectacle because those two women's side over the course of the last few years, they have proven themselves to be the benchmark and the pinnacle and what rugby is all about. They've proven that, and they've provided a better example for the culture of rugby than a lot of the men's sides have, which we've spoken about over the years, what the women have been doing. And I really hope that continues on Saturday. I hope we see 80 minutes of hard, fast, and competitive rugby. None of the bullshit, just the good quality football that we've seen from both those women sides and what has made them the most exciting match in rugby on the Central Coast. And we're going to see that on Saturday. So looking forward to it. Go well, women. Play well.
I'm tipping Emily Lufay player of the match as well. Just write that one down.
Let's
on
move
to the
on.
men, mate.
Well, it come to no surprise that the men's side pretty much mirrors the women. We've got Razorbacks versus Warrnambool, absolute cracker at the Pig Pen. It is going to be a really tight match. It's going to be a match that I think the Wildcats need to win. They need to win to... Whoa, I don't know what happened then, but they need to win to apply a little bit of pressure on the Razorbacks. Razorbacks are six points ahead of them on the ladder. The Red Devils are 1 point behind. So the Wildcats need to win to give themselves that little bit of a buffer in the semi-final series. It's going to be tough. Can they do it? I don't know if they can, Burner. It's just going to be a case of how the bodies come back from the Central Coast representative weekend away, if everyone comes back unscathed. But I'm going to pick the Razorbacks here to get up in a tight one. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. I think they're going to be a hell of a lot of big hits, a lot of bruised and battered bodies on a Sunday. I think it'll be a really good game for the purists. If you like tough, hard, sweaty men bumping into each other, I think you're going to see 80 minutes of joy.
Yeah, and even just the back row when you watching the reps on the weekend, just seeing Matt Martin, Lockie Peruk, and Rob Peden as the back row. You're just going, how good is this? Like, how good must it feel to be a Razorback knowing that that's your back three? And just so agile. All of them can jump. All of them just they do so much work with the ball, off the ball. They're phenomenal. I think the Razorbacks as well at home. And I think it's a bit of danger for Warrnambool because that means they've lost to Gosford, who sit below them in fifth spot. If they lose this weekend to the Razorbacks, it means they've kind of lost... because if Gosford get a win against Lake Macquarie, which you think they probably would, it means that Gosford would leapfrog them, and they're sort of sitting in that fifth spot. So it's a bit concerning when you think about, that even though they've been close to all those teams, they need to get those wins. Those games are so important because it's going to be so close when it comes down to that top five as to who finishes where. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game, but I think the Razorbacks at home, I think they're obviously incredibly difficult to beat at home. And I think they're under the radar, but hopefully we've exposed them a little bit now, and I think they'll come out flying this weekend. Razorbacks for me.
Here's another question. It's almost rhetorical because we don't know the answer. We're not really going to. Don't need you to tell me the answer. You know what? That's actually you. When you keep muting, that's what makes the sound go. So I'm getting the blame for poor microphone work when it's every time you hit mute. Anyway,
so I can't hear that noise. Is there a noise that comes through the mute? Is there?
Yeah, it goes through me. Anyway, let's move on. The Hornsby host Woolwee. What sort of teams Woolwee going to bring? Who knows? If they bring their best side, they're every chance. concerning at the source of the score that they got beaten by the Hornsby side by the Trojans last weekend. They're at home. Hornsby for me.
Yeah, I think, mate, it's on a train line. It's close to Sydney. You know how I feel about this. I think Hornsby still. I think it was a bit concerning the last time they played. Last time, because they had a bye last round. The last time that we played against the Lakes, there was a really ugly red card at the end, and that was one of the quite influential players. So I don't know how that would what impact that will have on the team in terms of their makeup moving forward. And it was not a scene that anybody really likes to see as well. So I'm really unsure of what their makeup as a team will be moving forward, and if they'll lose a lot of that, they're high end players. So for that reason, I'm gonna go Hornsby to get the win at home for this. I think they obviously got smacked by Terrigal last week, but everyone's getting smacked by them at the moment. So even the Razorbacks are a perfect example. So I'm going to go Hornsby to bounce back and get the win at home.
Well, if Hornsby win, they leapfrog the Lakes on the ladder, and if Woy win, Woy will leapfrog Hornsby on the ladder. So either way, we're going to have movement, no matter who the winner is. I think it will be the Hornsby Lions will win. All right, Gosford Red Devils are hosting Lake Macquarie. This is an opportunity for the Red Devils to continue on the good work that they've been doing. But statistically, they're improving the Roos, and if Gosford take them lightly, they could be in for a bit of a shock. But Red Devils at home for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I even reckon Josh McGlynn might get a try this weekend, get off the nudie. Is what he's hoping for.
And that leads us to the match of the round, Battle of the Beaches. The two undefeated rugby sides, Avoca Beach taking on the Terrigal Trojans in what is always an absolute epic. Terrigal Trojans sitting on the ladder 35 points and the Avoca Beach Sharks on 30. The one draw separates them and a few bonus points in Terrigal's favour. Mate, highlighted the calendar as a player, highlighted the calendar as a coach, and I think from both sides both beaches would say the same thing. It's a great day and a great spectacle for rugby. How do you see it going down?
I don't know. I think having, and Ethan McInnes, I don't know what the update on him, but that seemed pretty serious what he did. Looked like a hemi or something. So if that's the case, he's a big loss. But what frustrates me about Terrigal is it doesn't matter who they lose. They've got such a quality second grade and even the third grade that someone just fills in and just does that job. And they're so well coached that any loss isn't felt like a loss. You lose who you think is a key person. It doesn't matter. But Avoca have been flying, and this is just that battle of the top two. I think Terrigal.
Well, Terrigal. I guess a great thing just to highlight. The loss of Ethan McGuinness, playing in that hooking role. They've had a young up and coming player in the name of Harry McWilliam, who's been sort of filling in, a young country player from the under 20s and played a little bit in Colts and Sydney. They can use him, and you know what? Yeah, I'd be tempted to do as a coach of Terrigal in this situation. And Ethan wasn't playing. I'd roll out the veteran Toddy Atkins, and I'd play him at hooker. And because he is exactly the type of person that would just absorb that first 20 minutes and just thrive in that situation. He loves that. It was one of my great joys of coaching, was coaching Toddy in those areas. It was also one of my great pains in the ass was coaching Toddy in those areas, trying to get him.
I think he's a pain in the ass for everyone on the field, for both teams as well.
But he is the player you want on your side. And he's just a competitor, and he grows, and he loves those type of matches, as they all do. And I think whilst Ethan will be a big loss, I think Terrigal will have the stocks to replace him there, as you alluded to. I'm going to back the Trojans here. I think it's a game where they can step it up a level again, and I think it's a game where they can increase their standings in the competition, because Avoca Beach have been clearly leaders of the competition with the Trojans, and they've some of their performances have maybe just sort of not as been as strong as they were early on in the season. So I think there's an opportunity for Terry to really make a mark here.
I think I'm going to change my tip. I'm going to back Avoca now. Even though you just went pro Terrigal, I think, I don't know. I'm going to go Avoca. I think I'll swap around and go there. I think this is obviously a massive day for him. And I think last year there was a bit of a feeling about this game. There was a chance for an upset. Terrigal was sort of undermanned. Avoca weren't as strong as what they are now. And they just really missed opportunities. Avoca, there was chances that they had to make that line break, and the pass just didn't stick. They sort of half created chances, and the difference was Terrigal and mainly Dankit was just they iced everything, and Avoca didn't. And I think they've got the team now and that bit more experience that I think this will be a different game. I want to back Avoca, and I think it's obviously going to be a tight one. I want to back Avoca. I'll change my tip.
You know what I reckon is going to be the key? I think keeping their emotions in check. Yeah. The key for the Avoca Beach side to win is to harness the emotion and play within it, not let it get the better of you. And I think if Avoca Beach can do that, it's always their old boys' day. They get plenty of blokes on the sideline, plenty of blokes who are very excited about the day, and they start their excitement around about midday. And by the time 3 o'clock comes, they're extremely excited. That noise, it's the biggest game of the year for Avoca. There's no doubt about that. If the Avoca Beach players can harness that emotion and that energy and not let it get the better of them, and I mean with shit in the game or being susceptible and pushing back, fighting back, if they can have a controlled and calm performance, I think they're every chance. I really do. I think the occasion getting the better of them could be the biggest problem for the Avoca Beach side.
Well, that's definitely what happened last year. 100% is what happened last year. And they said straight after the game, we just didn't handle the occasion. Just got too much for us.
I'll go as far as saying this. I absolutely believe that the Avoca Beach side is good enough. It's going to be, the question is whether they're experienced enough in their headspace and their emotional intelligence during the game. That could be the difference.
Because Terrigal are frustrating. Like Dankit's a very frustrating team to play against, where he'll just keep pinning you down. It's always a smart option. Every single time there's no risk. It's always a smart option. That's very frustrating to play against because that often means that you're just turning you around. You're constantly running back and have to work up the field. So just dealing with those little things, exactly what you said. I think you fit the nail on the head there.
But for those of you who can't make it, make sure you stream on Clutch TV. Berner and I are back. We'll be commentating the match. So it's going to be a big day for us all. Big day for Central Coast Rugby, and obviously another big broadcasting day for the podcast and Clutch TV. So those of you who listen from far and abroad to us.
I think it's New South Wales Rugby TV now, mate.
Oh, there you go. Could be that too. Tune in to both of them. Have a split screen. Yeah. And enjoy it on both. But we'll be commentating. We might take a few beer coolers there. We might post something on the socials, so you can access a beer cooler for free, and we're going to have a great time with it. I am led to believe the Avoca Beach side are setting up some scaffolding for the cameras and for us to hop up there. So it's going to be a big day, big spectacle, awesome atmosphere. It always is at Haslett Park, and it's going to be a cracker, absolute cracker. I can't wait.
Is that it, mate?
Mate, I think that might be it, eh? You feeling better, mate?
Yeah, got towards the end of it. Apologies, I couldn't actually hear. Every time I hit mute, it just mutes everything for me. There's nothing that came through on the other end. So here I am thinking I'm quiet as coughing the whole time, and there's obviously a noise for everybody.
Mate, look, if it makes you feel any better, your breathing has come across a little bit like a nervous asthmatic. Seeing a bra for the first time, but that's okay. That's okay.
It can't be any worse than your audio from previous weeks.
I know. I'm certainly going to take it with me.
Yeah. There you are. You can see that. I think I did have another point. No, I didn't. No, I was just going to say
we got any love?
Weekend. We've already covered.
Any love? Going to give any love to anyone?
We got a lot of love from a couple of weeks ago. Actually, you gave the exquisite exterior cleanup of the week, didn't you?
Yep, I gave that out. I gave that to the Hornsby side, the Terrigal side flogging Hornsby, or Hornsby getting flogged by Terrigal.
Actually, I did want to say the Golden Schooner. I don't think we've given that enough of enough coverage. And I said I was glad when it got back into the Razorbacks' hands because we get the coverage and we do get something every week. So thank you very much, Razorbacks. But it was Razorbacks versus Sharks 2 weeks ago. And obviously Jake McPhee, the creator, and feels like it needs to come back home. Didn't go back home, and the Razorbacks held on to it. So I think there's going to be a long reign. Obviously, Warnervale this weekend. Warnervale will give it a bit of a nudge, but Razorbacks, once they get their hands on it, they don't give it up. So
come on, Wildcats. Come on, Wildcats.
See if the Wildcats can get it off them. Other than that, mate, I've got nothing.
Just want to give a quick shout out. Thank you to all our referees who do an outstanding job and give us a game that we can get there and enjoy and love on a Saturday. Also want to remind you, and I would like all people to feel the strength and the comfort in being able to tap their mate in the shoulder and say, listen, you're getting too carried away. If that's the case, there needs to be a concerted effort across the Central Coast for sporting behaviour. And I think we, and hopefully you, the listener, feel empowered enough to do that, because we don't want to see ourselves ending up like some other codes, which I don't need to name, but I'm sure you can all imagine because you've been to them and you've seen how they behave on the sideline. Let's be better. Let's do better. And let's respect the officials of our match. And let's respect the match. Let's respect the game that we love. So see you all on Saturday.
See ya!